message to be spread. So, if you need a little background story on what Missing 411 is and all of that information, I'll give you a very quick summary. It won't do it justice, but for further information, please go back to the first video I did on Missing 411, and that is the conspiracy theories Missing 411 East Coast edition. We go over Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, everybody. So I don't think PEI. Anyway, apparently it's always one missing. But anyways, go and check that video out for the additional details. But we'll summarize it right now. What is Missing 411? So David Paul Leeds used to be very into Bigfoot, a bunch of different conspiracy theories, but he was really interested in Bigfoot finding him, and he got interested in a lot of national park stories and missing persons stories when a lot of friends approached him and kind of told him the information around a lot of the missing persons cases that really did not make any sense. So he created a list, profile points, and these profile points help him vet cases that he looks further into. So a lot of these missing persons cases all have been cleared in certain ways so that it cannot be pinpointed to certain things. It wasn't really weather related. If someone's mental health was in question, he does not pick that case. If there was any animal possibilities, so that person was maybe mauled by a bear, he does not cover those cases. And a lot of the time, these cases are so bizarre that it's like, was it aliens? Was it some sort of crazy monsters? There's just so many parts to these that don't really make sense. Such as, dogs are usually used in these scenarios. They'll get the scent to walk somewhere and then in the middle of nowhere lose it. Way too frequently. It will be cases like a child who is incapable of walking very far is not only disappeared, but is found like 500 miles on as if they scaled off the sides of a cliff. So something or someone had to put them there. So very odd cases, very bizarre scenarios, and all in areas where people were separated. They could not contact each other. Geographical clusters were there. So he was really, for a lot of these, saying, aliens, he thought Bigfoot, that type of thing. So all of these cases go through his vetting process, his profile points, to see if they are justifiable, if there was certain possibilities that weren't abnormal or not. No, these are all abnormal cases, generally, that have gone through the process of potentials, and no rational reasons were found for why these people went missing. So, let's talk about the territories here. So the Northwest Territories, population 44,000, capital city Yellowknife. The majority of North Americans do not know that one of the biggest suppliers of diamonds in the United States and Canada are located in the Northwest Territory. The mines are both located approximately 190 miles northeast of Yellowknife, and both have their offices in the city. The open area mines While Alberta is 20 miles north of Edmonton, this region of province is predominantly farming land and rural. Paul Robert spent the majority of his 21 years growing up in the suburb of Edmonton just outside Morinville. He was a young and athletic man and had a job working on the oil rigs. On May 7th, 1949, Paul was working for Boyle Brothers Drilling at their site 30 miles south of Hay River in the Northwest Territories. The crew had worked a lengthy stretch, and Paul had a day off. He told his associates that he was going to follow a bulldozer path to another camp 8 miles south that he had been to before. He'd packed some food and a few supplies and started on his hike. Nobody in the work crew thought the level of trek was unusual, and everyone liked to get out of their environment when they'd had the time, right? How the search for Paul started is a story of perseverance and commitment. The following May 18th, 1949 article in Edmonton Journal has the details of how the RCMP and Army were notified of his disappearance. Fellow workers with the Boyle Brothers Drilling Company started a search as soon as they learned Robert had not reached his destination. 2 men walked the 30 miles to Hay River to notify the police. Paul vanished. All drilling in the immediate area stopped, and employees were sent into the bush to look for the man. The Army put up 2 Fox Moth aircraft that searched from the sky. On May 19th, Indian trackers were used in an attempt to follow the path of Paul, and they did not have any luck. Army coordinated with the RCMP and local trappers as 2 trappers traveled the river, looking for any clues as to where the hiker may have been. Hay River is on the Great Slave Lake. The Alberta border is approximately 40 miles south of the town and lake. The region around the mining camp that left Paul is very wild and thick, with vegetation and small bodies of water. This would not be a place where you would want to wander from the bulldozer trail. The search for Paul lasted 3 weeks. There were over 100 hours of aircraft time dedicated to looking, and there were dozens of men that took time off of work to do nothing but search. There was never anything related to Paul or Paul himself, or anything that he could have been carrying. And this is why it's important to note why animals are obviously not a possibility, because usually there would be remains or like pants, things. There'd be things. Next is Herbert Lafferty, missing October 8th, 1960. He was 12 years old when he went missing. So, on October 8, 1960, 12-year-old Herbert Lafferty was hunting rabbits with his grandfather in a remote region outside of town. On the 13th, an article in the Edmonton Journal stated, Herbert Lafferty disappeared around noon Saturday while snaring rabbits in the bush south of Port Resolution. He was accompanied by his grandfather Napoleon before they'd separated. The search is concentrated on an area on the south shore of Great Slave Lake, about 650 miles north of Edmonton. Mr. Lafferty said he and the boy were approximately 10 Nancy went walking around and continued to search late through the night. The RCMP gathered volunteers with planes to search in the air and also found 40 downed locals to scour the ground. The area of the search was described as swampy with muskeg and dense bush. An October 17, 1960 article had the details about the search and rescue. Searchers have been hammered by cold weather Imagine -60. Not worth it. I'd move. Without, no. The community and RCMP started the search for the hunter immediately. Fred was headed 50 kilometers north to the hunting grounds and specifically told a friend he was traveling 10 miles northwest of Holman. He had a partner lined up to go with him who backed out last minute. It was a well-traveled route, but treacherous in certain spots. There's everything from deep valleys to high cliffs, so you have to be careful. Search parties actually found Fred's camp 30 miles of Holman and nowhere near the lake where he said that he was going. Searchers found his abandoned snowmobile, rifle, and survival gear. They had found his sled held up by a piece of plywood, and it was apparent that he had been sleeping under it. Beneath it, they'd found a foam mattress, sleeping bag, stove, and food. They even found a tea mug on a slight snow ledge. Fred had also brought a second snow machine as backup, and this was also found at the camp. The RCMP flew their twin Otter aircraft for weeks looking for any sign of Fred. Local community members took long wooden poles and penetrated the snow in the area looking for his body. There were many articles written a year after the disappearance calling this the Arctic mystery. There was no body and no explanation as to why Fred would leave the safety of his camp, knowing that the community would go looking for him. Fred's family stated that he left the big city for the solitude of the Great North. He had loved the Inuit people and the freedom of movement offered by Holman. Some people think Fred was reckless. I think you need to understand the mindset of the natives living in the area. When someone goes missing, there isn't anger or any questions if you are going to search. Everyone able to search will search. Everyone knew to go, and the area can be treacherous, and the Inuit people know they need to count on each other. Fred knew this. The RCMP made a statement that were demeaning to Fred. They stated that he didn't follow the village instructions to tell the RCMP office when he was leaving and going to return. Well, if you are traveling with others, you supposedly didn't have to. When Fred woke up that morning, he did believe his friend was going with him, but at the last minute, they had backed out. Fred had purposefully taken another snowmobile with him to ensure that he had transportation, and it is not believed that he had voluntarily left his location. There was no reason to walk away from safety, security, She was believed to have gone for a walk with her mongrel dog before she was reported missing. Her dog returned home July 11th with porcupine quills in his muzzle. 40 men later combed the hillside near Dawson with no results. Gertrude's disappearance puzzled the city of 1,375 residents. A witness did come forward indicating that Gertrude had been seen in the afternoon of July 7th near the cemetery just outside of Dawson. The Paddle Wheel Graveyard is outside. I'm gonna leave it in. It's outside the northern edge of town, off of a dirt road. The area around the cemetery is very thick with foliage and gets remote quite quickly. Highway 92 ends on the northwest side of the Yukon River and is the closest paved road to the location. The RCMP committed 40 officers as part of their search and rescue, with fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters for 10 days. Nothing was ever found of Gertrude. Then there's James Miller, missing September 22nd, 1974. I think that any outdoorsman dreams of a trip of a lifetime to an exotic location to catch giant fish, hunt for game, and deal with the conflicts that always surface from off-the-grid travel. This is a story of a hunter who lived his dream that it became a nightmare. Ricordo, Pennsylvania is a northern suburb of Philadelphia and the hometown of the 42-year-old James Miller. He was an outdoorsman, husband to Diane, and dad to his 3 sons, Jim, Richard, and Jeff. His business was successful, and he was able to save money for a trip to the Yukon in northwestern Canada. James would not be traveling alone. He was going with his friend Glenn Bierman. James and Glenn of 1974. James and Glenn made the lengthy trip with multiple flights to eventually arrive in the small city of Watson Lake, the Yukon Territory. Once arrived, an outfitter had arranged for the pair to meet 2 guides and a cook for the excursion. On September 15th, the 5 men boarded a float plane and flown 145 miles to Dendle Lake, where they'd set up a temporary camp. led the way, followed by Miller and two guides together at the rear of a stretched outline. But Miller never returned to camp. No one knows how he was separated. Shots were fired in the area, and the three who returned believe Miller fired his gun in response. Searches by the three failed, and they were sure he'd return. They told his wife, and he was very experienced. But Miller was not found. After several days of problem with the radio, authorities were finally contacted on September 27th. What I find unusual about the previous statement was the failure of the radio to work. Was there an electrical interference or just a bad radio? The RCMP had gotten to the scene and started to do their thing. The search lasted 9 days, and a spokesperson said weather had prevented a helicopter from going into the area to pick up a tracking dog and its handler. I have been to the Yukon at least 6 times, flown back country in helicopters and floats for some business and other times for pleasure. The area is remote and not populated. Miller and Bierman were in his most desolate country in North America, and if you have an emergency in this area, you're on your own. On October 20th, RCMP announced the search was over, and the seasons were starting to change, and with it, the weather. In early November, Diane Miller's James's wife flew to Watson Lake and met with the RCMP. She needed to see the location where her husband had vanished and understand why the search was over. She was stunned at the vastness and lack of humanity, and returned to the headquarters and thanked them for their diligence. This story has a factor to it that makes disappearances challenging to understand. Even the story told directly by guides on the scene, they don't know how James got separated from others while hiking. People who don't read my work don't seem to understand how unusual the cases are, and how unmistakably unusual the surrounding facts. I have no doubt the 6-day delay in getting the RCMP to the scene did not help, as well as the inoperable radio and weather that played a significant role in this case. Okay, now I'm at the very last case for the Yukon, technically the territories, the 3 territories in general, because none of it isn't in here, but this case is 6 pages, so you know it's going to be a wild one. So let's get into it, okay? Need to get those pipes ready. So, now we're finally going to be talking about Bart Schleyer, who was missing September 14th of 2004. So, he writes, if there was ever an outdoorsman who would be considered a man's man, it is Bart Schleyer. Bart was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1954. To his birth location, Bart was destined to be lived outdoors. His father had took him around the world on hunting adventures, and this had the boy hooked on the hunt, but not the kill. I think he just really loved the outdoors. He had graduated in 1979 from Montana State University with a master's degree in wildlife biology. seen a bear once in the wild with a little collar on, and I thought it was so cute that I was like, what a look, he's being tracked. But for someone who is terrified of bears, it just looked like he was a pet. So one of the many stories about Bart's athletic prowess tells of days he spent hiking in the mountains, trekking and walking for 12 hours where there were no trails, before heading back into his cabin. Once home, Bart would start an exercise regime of push-ups, squats, using logs, and a variety of exercises that would cripple an average man. After doing a full day's work in the mountains, he had moved to Alaska for a short period and studied taxidermy. And for his next adventure, he was recruited by a friend to travel to the Russian Far East to study and trap Siberian tigers. It was also in Russia that he developed a relationship with a beautiful Russian woman, Tatiana. Bart and Tatiana had a son, Artyom. This was the first time he had dedicated time and a relationship to a family. In 2002, he had moved to the Yukon territory and called Whitehorse his home. He developed a keen interest in Yukon wildlife and specifically in bow hunting sheep and moose. As a hunter, he had conquered every continent, almost, and most big game with his bow. He'd felt it offered a bigger challenge than hunting with a rifle, and it should be clear to all readers that bow hunting is a skill that takes years to perfect. You must be stealthy, patient, and committed obvious to his friends that he had been sitting on it. They said it appears that as though Bart had been calling moose from the location, so they continued to scour the area. A short distance away, they'd found a camouflage face mask with a small amount of blood on it and called the RCMP. They performed en masse a set of grid search patterns in an attempt to find him. 60 yards from the bow, searchers found a skull and a few teeth. They also found camouflage pants, a camera, and a few small bones. The teeth were later positively identified as Bart's. Most investigators would stop the investigation at this point and claim Grizzly killed him. But there was too many strange circumstances to claim this, especially as someone who lured them for a living. So for starters, there was a significant bear and wolf scat at the scene. Many samples of scat recovered from the lab testings. One issue completely baffled the investigators is there was no clothing found in any of the bear's scat. When bears eat people, they eat everything: clothing, jewelry, and it all comes out. So it was odd that his pants were laying on the ground near the scene, as if he had removed them, or they'd somehow came off. Most of the clothing he was wearing had never been found, even after wide and comprehensive searches. Conservation officers at the scene knew that bears usually cache their killers, burying them for a later meal. A thorough search of the Reed Lakes areas didn't produce any evidence of cache or any bloody ground from a body being dragged or wounded. The other troubling issue is that there is no sign of a struggle anywhere. Near his no moss, tundra, or branches disturbed, the site was very calm. Several investigators made statements that his death is a mystery, and the idea that a bear killed him makes no sense. People who worked with Bart all claimed that he would have gone down with a struggle, his friends saying that he was in outstanding shape and would have fought for his life, and they do not believe a bear could have attacked him by surprise. One of the last items the investigators found from the bow was Bart's cap and balaclava that he was wearing. There was no damage to either, no blood, nothing to indicate anything of happening. Investigators also found it strange that his balaclava was found with no puncture wounds or bite marks, and this is unusual because bears normally bite your head or neck. The coroner would later make a statement that the skull had no punctures or bite marks associating with animal attacks or any attacks. Investigators found it difficult to believe that animals would have killed Bart and left his bag completely undisturbed. Investigators also don't understand why a predator would kill and consume Bart and not travel the half-mile to then his camp and consume his food. Based on what they'd found on his campsite, they believed that he had been alive at Reed Lakes only one night. Coroner Sharon examined the remains and stated that no tissue to examine, it was difficult to draw conclusions. But the bones that were recovered did appear to be gnawed on by an animal. No specific animal, though, however. I had asked others to share their thoughts on what they'd assumed its disappearance, stating in all their years in the Yukon, it is the expert belief that bears don't consume people up there. He stated that the largest of the Reed Lakes is shallow with a lot of bugs. It's a place where people don't really travel, and it appeared that Bart had taken his inflatable boat across the lake to hunt. Maybe he had heard or seen something. And calling Moose when something terrible had happened. One of the last statements Rick had made about the disappearance of Bart was in regards to bears, saying it did appear that a bear had eaten a portion of him, but it did not kill or consume all of him because there was no clothing in the scat. And his pants were found in the bush. They also did not find any carnivorous bears in the area. They never did this. It was a very odd case. So that are some of the missing 411 Canada cases for the Yukon and Northwest Territories. What is it that you think could be the thing doing these things? That last one did sound like animal, but for such a skilled hunter, I mean, I'm sure it could happen. But considering the evidence showed that it wasn't, or it was most likely not animal related, is, I don't know, pretty wild, right? The missing 411 cases are interesting, that's for sure. Had you guys heard any of these before? Do you have a suggestion on what my next province should be? I can do Ontario, Montreal, or Quebec had a lot, as did BC. Alberta's the biggest chapter. But let me know. I can't read over 100 pages, so I'll have to pick like the best ones. But I have a feeling a lot of these ones coming up will be much different, because I mean they're not in these crazy national park areas, but that's kind of what he does. They're all national parks. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below on what you think of today's stories and video. Now I said I'd ramble, but I'll only do it quick. I am going to be filming for Halloween soon, and I'm so excited, you guys. It's gonna be amazing. At first I was like, yeah, I have some good ideas. No, they're gonna be so, for me at least, really cool. I think for you guys too. It's very fun, always different.